Hi, my name is Rivera. I'm the Director of Scientific Outreach here at Meter Group. And today we're going to talk about soil moisture release curves. And what we're going to focus on is why are they important? Why do we even want to make these measurements? Well, why are they important? What do soil moisture release curves tell us? Turns out they tell us a lot of things. They help us understand a lot of different fundamental properties about our soil that can help us make a lot of decisions. One, they tell us how water is stored in the soil, which of course is super important when it comes to availability of water for plant productivity and when it comes to trying to grow things well, and understanding that how that changes with different soil types, because that changes a lot with different soil types. It can also help us understand things like water and solute movement in soils, which can be really important for understanding the potential for contaminant transport, but also just how water redistributes in the soil as it's being used or moved due to various things. So soil moisture release curves are really key when it comes to optimizing water use for crops and when it comes to modeling soil hydrology and things like contaminant fate and transport. So when we're thinking about the importance and how they help us, especially when it comes to irrigation decisions, typically in the field, we're looking at things like water content. And water content is nice because it's really easy to measure, but the soil moisture release curve will help us take that water content measurement and then identify what that means in terms of water potentials, which is what the plant is actually feeling. And you can see here a graph that shows different ideal water potential ranges for different plants and different types of crops. The soil moisture release curve really helps us identify in terms of water content, what that will mean in terms of water potential for the plant. So we can optimize our irrigation to be within the correct ranges for the water potentials for these different types of crops to optimize our production and get the best yields possible. Another really interesting thing that a soil moisture release curve can help us understand is some of the fundamental physical properties about soil. So it turns out that we can actually use the soil moisture release curve to understand things like shrink-swell capacity of soil, which tells us how much it can potentially expand and contract, which can be important when it comes to building roads and foundations and how the soils can potentially impact those structures. It also can help us measure what are typically complex measurements, things like cation exchange capacity and soil-specific surface area. These are things that can actually be modeled through the dry end of the soil moisture release curve. So it turns out there are a lot of really unique and interesting things we can learn about soil just through the soil moisture release curve. And in the next video, we're going to talk about some of the fundamentals behind making those measurements, and then we'll hit on some of the tools and the best practices for making those measurements.